It's my feel-good breakfast show.
A feel-good breakfast show on this Thursday morning, and nothing feels as good as eating healthily and also feeling good after that. Well, we're bringing you all the latest. Woolworths has launched a healthy living hub online, and this is where you can find all kinds of recipes, meal plans, expert advice, really things that inspires you to eat better. Well, with us in our studio this morning, we've got Cindy Shin. She's an expert in her field, understanding the good carbs versus the bad carbs. Cindy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ilana.
Let's get to the basics first. What is a carb or carbohydrate?
So typically when you think of a carbohydrate, we think of starchy carbs like your rice, potatoes, pasta, etc. But actually there are other components that contain carbs, and that would be your simple sugars, like your added sugars, but also carbs from dairy and fruit, and of course from fiber, which we often don't think of. So it's a component, and that's primarily used for fuel in the body, and that's a carbohydrate.
People say so many things about it. Are some carbs better than others?
I think that's where in the craze of eliminating certain macronutrients from a diet, we lose sight of the fact that there are different quality carbohydrates. So if I compare, say, minimally processed, unrefined whole grains, like you see here on display, legumes, beans, peas, lentils, mealies, whole brown rice, it's got a very different nutrient set compared to a diet full of
donuts and cookies, but they look so good, and sweeties.
Highly refined, overly processed carbohydrates that probably have very little in terms of nutritional value. Okay. So they're both carbohydrate foods, groups of foods, but this set obviously a much more better nutrient set.
I giggle because we all have such a fuss. There's such a fuss about carbohydrates now. I mean, everyone's talking about it. Should we limit as to how much of the carbs we eat in our diet?
I think the first thing to think about is that no one disputes the fact that we should be eating less of the junk foods, the highly refined processed foods. What can happen if you limit or take out a certain food group is that you could run out, or you could be deficient in certain beneficial nutrients like fiber and B vitamins. And the other thing that in private practice that I've seen that typically occurs is that the best kind of diet is the one you can actually stick to. So if you can't sustain it in the long term, probably not a good idea. And also what I find in practice that in highly restrictive diets, people go from highly restrained and disciplined to binging, and then to the guilt trip, and then they keep cycling around like that. So it creates an unhealthy relationship with food that in the long run is probably not sustainable.
No, one shouldn't feel guilty when you eat anything. But tell me about the new range. Woolworths has a new range. Carb clever, because I want to be carb savvy.
So we've designed this range purely in response to customers requesting meals that are ready meals, so the added convenience, but without the starch component. So a meal without the rice, the potatoes, the starch, the noodles. So that's what we've done. It's not designed specifically for any one particular dietary regime. So it accommodates various dietary regimes, as well as, say for instance, you're diabetic and you're carbohydrate counting, so to help you with meal planning. So it's more of a modular type of diet. And also what we haven't included are things like legumes and wheat, so it accommodates quite a wide variety of dietary needs. Okay. Just like we've done the free from gluten, the free from lactose range, we've brought in the carb clever range too.
Well, now you know what it's all about, huh? Some of us are excited about it, others are going, what is all the craze about carbohydrates? But if you want to find out more, I'll take you there, woolworths.co.za/healthy living. It's very easy. On their recipes, you can find out how you can cut down, and I think it's simple. If you can't sustain the diet, like Cindy mentioned, then you shouldn't probably have it. Cindy, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Well, making good food choices, and you heard it, some like highly refined, highly processed carbs, which we shouldn't have, and all those sugars. I think if we move away from those, we're definitely moving into the right direction, which is what we need to show you on this show. In fact, what is cooking in our kitchen? Let's have a look.